welcome back to my channel. First things first, I'm sorry if you can hear the traffic. I do live on a highway, so it is a little bit busier. Not a good time of day to film this. It's 4:45 in the afternoon, but gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. Anyway, welcome back to my studio. I have seen a lot of artists putting out videos about the different supplies that they use, and I really wanted to give my 2 cents on that. I learn a lot about supplies from other artists on YouTube, so I thought that I would kind of share my supplies, why I use them, where I got them. Most of the time when I'm purchasing supplies, I am getting them on sale. I do not like to pay full price, mostly because paints are very expensive, brushes can be very expensive. It's a very expensive hobby if it's just your hobby. It is just very expensive to purchase art supplies. So I wanted to go through what I have. Maybe this will help some people. I don't know if it will. I know watching other artists' supplies videos, seeing what they use, seeing what other artists use is helpful for me because I can look at an artist and go, oh, I really like the colors in that painting that they did. I really like the techniques they used. When they tell you what supply they used, you can choose to go and get that supply if you want to try and do something in a similar style. So I find it really helpful. So we're gonna start with tools, which seems like an odd thing for an artist, but tools are actually really important. I find that I use certain supplies more than others, and there are certain things that I use pretty much every single time I paint, even if it's not a paint, a drawing, even if you're working in your sketchbook, painting on a canvas, maybe you're redoing a piece of furniture. It's things that I find you could literally use for any hobby when you're, as far as like customizing, painting, creating, things like that, crafting. They're really handy to have. So first things first, paint palette knives. I use palette knives to mix paint. I use palette knives to put paint onto a surface. I scrape my palettes with it. This one I use more for, let's see if I can get it to focus. This one I use more for mixing. You can see I've been oil painting that. I don't know what brand these are. I think I just got them at Michael's. I'm not very specific about brands. I really don't care that much about using specific brands for certain things. I feel like these are really good quality palette knives for the price that I paid. I don't remember what I paid, but I know each of them were under $5 a piece. But I like this one because it has a really harsh edge to it. Probably should have cleaned these before I did this video, but it's fine. You can use this edge to, I use this edge to scrape my palette sometimes, or this edge, or if you really need to get under any chunks that are stuck to your palette, you can do that as well. You can even use this to create edges on mountains and things like that when you're painting, you know, but like Bob Ross used to do. Rest in peace. I also have this blade. You have to be really careful. It is very sharp. This blade I use mostly to clean my glass palette that I've been using, but it is really handy. You can scrape paint off of furniture if you're stripping the old paint off and you need to reapply paint. You can use it. It is pretty disgusting right now, but you just hit this, you just push this button down, pull it down, and then push it, slide it up. You can also push it all the way out and replace the blade completely. So it's very handy. I think I got this at like an Ace Hardware, or no, not O'Reilly's. You can probably get them at Home Depot. Honestly, I think I got this at Ace Hardware or something like that for a couple bucks. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is brushes. I do not care about brands on brushes by any means. I will use Walmart brushes. I will get off-brand brushes at really any craft store, Joann's brushes, you know, what have you. But I have really taken a liking to these Angelus brushes. I got these at Michael's. They have they're really dirty. I've been using them, obviously. They have quite a few different types of brush tips with them, and they are artificial. I do not use real hair brushes, which I think some artists are probably going to be horrified by that, but I really don't care. The handles on these are really good quality. They're very firm. They have a good grip to them. They have a good length too, so if you're wanting to paint, if you're someone who likes to have like a slightly longer brush, they're not terribly short. You can pull up on them or you can use them back here, but they are very good. I like them a lot. I also liked this. It's like from Artsmith. It's so inexpensive. I don't remember what I paid for it, but it's a nice fan brush. I've used it quite a few times. It's not really that stained, which is surprising, but again, it has a nice sturdy handle to it. Also, I think these little water brushes are very handy. I also got these at Joann's for really cheap. I will fill them up and then I will bring a bottle of water with me when I go. You fill them with water and then you squeeze them and it just comes out onto the brush. I actually haven't used these two yet. They are slightly different sizes. One's a bit bigger than the other. But they're very, very handy to have. If you are a watercolor painter or you travel and you like to paint, they are very handy to just kind of throw in your bag with you. I'm actually going to be going away for a long weekend soon, so I will be bringing these. So I don't watercolor paint a whole lot, but when I do, I have a hard time because a lot of the watercolors that I've used are not very pigmented, which I know the purpose of watercolor is to layer and to build, but there's a fine line between being able to layer and build with it and it just being crap watercolor. So I actually swatched this in my shorts not that long ago. I think, no, it was sometime last year. So it was a while ago. But these, this Vintage Pastels palette from Art Philosophy, they give you this swatching card and you can swatch like the whole palette and you can keep it very handy tucked in there so that when you're out somewhere you can pull it out and have a good reference of how they look when they're dried. I prefer a wet on dried look where you paint a layer, let it dry, paint a layer, let it dry, like that kind of look. The wet on wet, I don't like how blendy it looks. So this is very handy to be able to see. And after I got that, I went a little overboard. I actually bought another one and then asked for 2 more for Christmas. So I ended up with 3 more palettes. I did take the time to swatch them all today and they are beautifully, beautifully pigmented. This is the Woodlands palette. This one is the Terrains palette. And then this one is the Currents palette, which is like water and foliage type stuff. So incredibly beautiful, incredibly pigmented, but also you can thin them out how you need them. But you don't have to. You can make them, you can use them a bit thicker and more opaque. They're wonderful and I will be using these a lot more in the future. Another recent thing for me, actually, the Holbein Acrylic Gouache. There are magenta, cyan, yellow, white, and there is a black one. I left it on my table over there. They're very pigmented, they are very smooth, they mix very well. I found sometimes with gouache paint, once it dries, it will crack. The Himi Jelly Gouache that I've been using, I've noticed that on 2 different paintings. Actually, the fire painting that I have here did that, and then I did a small like nebula painting years ago, and it cracked. And at first I thought it was the sealant I used because I sealed that one and noticed it, but this one did the same thing before I even had a chance to seal it. So it's definitely the paint. But these I have not noticed crack at all. They are very pigmented. They are very layerable, which is great. My only gripe with this, my only con with these is this magenta. I prefer a true red when I am mixing primary colors, and I do prefer just to get primary. Mostly because if you're an artist and you don't know how to mix colors, that is something that you should learn. Even if you learn that and end up not using it, you just decide, oh, I'm just gonna go buy greens. shades of green instead, so I don't have to mix them, or shades of brown, or I'll just use black instead. That's completely fine. It's completely up to you, but you really should learn how to mix paints. I think it's actually really handy to challenge yourself in that way, to mix everything yourself. You also don't realize how true to the reference you can get until you start mixing things on your own. So I would always recommend that you mix them yourself, but I do have other paints where I have a green. I don't have to mix a green. It's very handy. It's very easy to deal with. So the only gripe is the magenta, but these are very great paints. I did get these on sale. I usually wait until Michael's is having like a 40% off to get something like this. I have had this kind of floating around on my wish list for a long time and decided to make the jump. I had $10 in voucher. They also had a 40% off going on. So I think I paid $10 for these, which is such a good deal because they were, I think it was like $25 for the set. I'm not entirely sure, but I knew that it was less than $10. I don't remember what the full price was, but always shop those sales. It's very handy. Now, oil paints. These are the only oil paints that I use. I have at one point used oil paints that are like true oil paints, but I don't like it. I don't like the smell of it. I don't like using paint thinners. I don't like the chemicals. I don't like the cleanup. It's very, very annoying, which is such a, first world problem. But the Winsor & Newton water-mixable paints, I have quite a few of them. They are kind of pricey. And then I did get this giant tube of white because I did not want to run out. I do tend to use quite a bit of white when painting, but I really love this paint. It's great paint. It's very handy to just mix with water. I don't have to worry about all the chemicals. They do smell like my high school art room, so whenever I'm using them, it kind of throws me back in my memories, which is not a bad thing, but I didn't like high school, so I guess, I don't know. But it does smell like exactly like my art room smelled in high school. So. Okay, final paint is acrylic paint. These are paints that I just started using last year. I really, really like them a lot. I think I saw another artist using them and she uses golden, which I haven't ever even tried. I do want to try those, but these are a nice alternative to that. As far as price goes, like if you want to try golden, but you're not quite ready to hit that point because of the price, the Liquitex Professional Heavy Body Acrylic Paint is what I use instead. I really, really like this paint. You can actually get different sets of different shades. So there is Quinacridone Crimson, Naphthol Red. So they're two different shades of red. So bright in here, sorry. Just how different those reds are. I do really like that you can have them. They do have some that have magenta, but I'm gonna avoid that. I actually almost got a magenta set. Then you've got your true yellow and then your yellow ochre. Actually, they call it bronze yellow, but it's yellow ochre. You have this, I have no idea how to say this shade of blue, but you have two different shades. Oh, that's the same thing. Oh, here it is. This is more of a magenta shade. I don't even think I've opened this one yet. There's a couple shades of green. You usually get a full tube of white with that, and then you also can get black. But yeah, I use these all the time. I use them on my poppy painting I did. I use it for sometimes in my sketchbook. I'm actually working on a commission painting right now with it. So it's great for a slightly less expensive alternative to a golden paint, to the golden brand paint. Okay, one thing that I'm not going to go too deep into is pens and markers. I don't use markers honestly ever. I use some in my bullet journal, but I don't use any when I'm in my sketchbook or if I'm painting doing something like that. And I want to actually get more into it this year. I actually just bought some Prismacolor pencils, which I'm looking forward to using. I haven't used them yet. I haven't used colored pencils or markers since probably high school. I kind of thought that that was more of like a child thing, a middle school thing. So I've kind of been avoiding them in that way. But one thing I do use a lot that I really like are the fine point markers. I used to use these a lot. I used to do a lot of like comic type stuff. but right now I keep them on hand because they're really handy. Handy. The Faber-Castell. I have this thick brush one. It has a really thick point to it, so I use that. I also have a small chisel, a chisel, fine point, medium point. I think I bought like an assorted pack. So I have a few different ones of these, but you can use these for sketchbooks. You can use them on canvas. You can use them on paper. They're very pigmented and they are waterproof. So you can use them if you wanted to do like a mixed media with watercolor. You can use watercolor and these together. I actually really like that look. I think it looks different, very unique. So I really, really like these and would always recommend them. They're actually very beginner friendly. They're not too expensive. I think you can get these at Walmart actually, but they're not too expensive. And I think that's nice when things are not too expensive, especially in this world. But sometimes the fine point markers, the micron pens are nice too, but I think those are not, they might be waterproof. I'm not entirely sure. I've tried a couple different brands of the waterproof pens, and these are the ones that I tend to gravitate to more. So I would definitely recommend these. Okay, the last thing I'm gonna talk about is surfaces, canvases, paper, sketchbooks, things like that. So typically I make my own sketchbooks, or I have been for the last few years, and I've been using this Canson Watercolor 140 pound paper. It is 140 pound paper, so it does bow a little bit when you get it wet, but not much. I actually find that doing smaller sketches on it is kind of the best to use it for. So I honestly, the more I use it, the more I think it's more of like a mixed media. I wouldn't go too heavy with like watercolor on it. But it is really nice. If you wanted to use watercolor on it, you could definitely still do that. So that's what I use in my sketchbooks, or sometimes I will just take the sheet out and use washi tape around the edges. Okay, so sketchbooks. Did I already say? No. I did recently make a few sketchbooks. This one is the mixed media paper sketchbook that I made. I have not busted into this quite yet, but I think I'm gonna take this with me on our weekend away in a few weeks. And I think I'm gonna take my watercolor one, which I'm actually working in today. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's a lot sturdier than the last one I made, which is this one. I still have it, I still love it. I used that watercolor paint. You can see, like I said, it does bow slightly in the edge, but I do really love this sketchbook. The sketchbook also. So I got this sketchbook, oh gosh, 3.5 years ago now it would have been. It was before we even moved to Massachusetts. I got it as a gift from the company I worked for. It was like our Christmas gift. I also got some calligraphy stuff that I need to dip into because I haven't in a long time. I did take it out and use it a little bit, but I haven't really been able to, or I haven't really used it a lot. So it is this beautiful Rustico watercolor sketchbook. It is quite big and it is very beautifully made. I actually tested this out a couple years ago, trying out some different paint. So I did use this. So I did this. I really like the paper. It's a bit more textured than I typically would like to use, but I really like it. It has like a deckled edge to it. I don't know if you can see that. But I really, really love this sketchbook, and I do not work in it often at all. It has this really nice leather binding to it. You can actually, if you can see, you can actually undo the signatures on the side and refill it. So I probably will do that at some point, but I have this much of the sketchbook. I've literally painted on one page, but it is beautiful. I would always recommend it. Now this sketchbook, I believe when I got this, I think it was like because they asked us for suggestions on what to get us for Christmas. They wanted to get us gifts. And I really honestly, I was like, I don't know, I don't need stuff. What do I need? And then I was like, all right, I've dreamt about getting this from them for a very long time. This company is a great company. Rustico, however you say it. So I was like, I'll do this. It was $140. It was nothing I would ever have bought myself because of the price. And shockingly, they got it for me. So thank you to them. None of them watch this, but this is such a beautiful, beautiful sketchbook. And I will be using it a lot more in the future. Hopefully soon. I'd actually kind of like, should I fill this year? Is that a lot? I have a lot of things going on. I shouldn't do that. I just started a huge project. And then the last thing that I will talk about is canvases and other surfaces. This gesso panel that you can get, I actually don't have one that I haven't already painted on, but it is very, very hard. It is very smooth. I also used, this poppy painting is on gesso panel or gesso board as well, but it is actually on one where you can have a frame to it, just like this one. I got this for $6.50. It's usually $13. This one was a 12 by 12. I think that one was an 8 by 8. I may be wrong. That might be a 6 by 6. I can't quite remember. But they're really great. They're smooth and they are wonderful. They actually have some that have more texture to them, which I have 2 of, and I got them on accident. I didn't think that through. I didn't even check to see if they were smooth or if they were rough. So I haven't used them yet. I don't know if those ones are good, but these, this one's from Master's Touch, which that one will be also. They're perfectly fine. I don't see the point in buying a high-end brand when it comes to this stuff. They do the job. They're great. They still have enough of an edge, like a lip to them here, that you can hang them on the wall. I don't have that on a nail. I do have those like strips, like command strips. I was honestly really sick of drilling into these walls, so I didn't want to do that. As far as regular canvases go that I do use the Artsmith level 3 archival oh, this isn't the right one. This one I got at Joann's, I think. The it is already primed. It's archival quality from Artsmith, but I do use, okay, I don't have any handy. I thought that's what that was, but I do use the level 3 gallery wrap canvas from Michaels. That is what I prefer to use. I just like the quality of that better than the other canvas options. There's nothing wrong with the other canvases. If it's not something you can afford, get them on sale. January and July, Michaels, I think Joann's also has a 70% off canvas sale, and I am going to hoard this summer in those because I have a lot of projects that I want to do and I need more surfaces. I have quite a few canvases now, but hopefully I can create enough to kind of fill all that stuff up. You can get all kinds of different sizes of these canvases from Joann's. They are the thinner ones. They are perfectly fine. You do not need expensive canvases, especially if you're just creating something for yourself. So I just wanted to go through what I use. Again, shop the sales, use the coupons. Don't be ashamed of it. This stuff's expensive, and it is a very expensive thing to keep up with, especially because there's always a new product out. There's always something that you want to try. Like I said, I tend to see the supplies that other artists use and go, oh, I really like their style. I really like what they make. Maybe I should try that for myself. It might be something that I like. Sometimes it's not. Most of the time it is because they are professional artists or they are artists who are self-taught but do it for a living, so they know what materials work, they know what are good items, they know what's worth spending the money on. There are a few things that I've used in the last probably 6 months that I have been really disappointed in. The ArtX acrylic paint markers that have the brush on them, I was not happy with those. They did not layer well. I don't even remember what project I used on them because I bailed on it because I hate it. Oh, it was the ornaments. I tried to paint Christmas ornaments last year and I actually filmed everything in the wrong setting, which was really upsetting. But I used them and they were really disappointing. They did not layer very well, but I do want to kind of pull them out. Maybe use them in my sketchbook. I think that might be a better surface to test them out on than wood. I did prime the wood at first, and I also already had paint down on top of that, so they should have been just fine, but I'm gonna give them another shot. I don't know if I'll end up liking them, but I'm gonna try them again and see if I do, if I like them or not. Maybe I'm working on a sketchbook video actually right now, today. Not right now, I'm working on this right now, but I'm working on a sketchbook video today. I probably will be working on it for a couple of days, working in my sketchbook and filling out spreads, testing things. So I'll pull them out, I'll test them out and see. But more often than not, I see artists using the Holbein gouache. The Liquitex Heavy Body Acrylic Art Philosophy is actually a bigger brand than I thought they were. I had only ever seen those and was like, oh, I really like this vintage pastel palette. I'm gonna try it out, see if I like it. And I actually really ended up liking it, so I obviously hoarded several. I found a way to get more. But those were actually clearance when I got them. They were surprisingly expensive. Although I know art supplies are expensive, it is what it is, but thank you for watching and listening to me blab about stuff. I'm very passionate about saving money on art supplies because I love, love, love to paint, but it is really expensive to get the higher quality stuff. You do not have to compromise quality when it comes to cost. You can get whatever you need at a discounted price. You can use coupons, use vouchers. Heck, sometimes I even still use the stuff at Walmart. I still have paint from years ago when I bought a small pack at Walmart. I think it's just the acrylic paint, whatever that brand is that they use. Sometimes I use their canvases also. It's not a big deal. You don't have to have super high-end, high-quality supplies. When you're selling stuff, you do want to have, you know, a higher quality canvas, higher quality paints. Your brushes are kind of how they are. It's more how you treat your brushes than what brushes you use. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me and watching. I hope you like this video. I know it's a bit different than what I've done before. I'm really not one for talking to the camera. I do feel kind of dumb. My neighbor caught me a couple times last weekend talking to the camera and I felt really stupid, but I'm working on it. Trying to feel less dumb. Yeah, so anyway, join me next week. I don't know what next week's video is because I'm trying to pre-film stuff, but I am working on a very big project that I'm hoping to be able... Hi, Booty. What doing? That is not nice. Cut it out. Make the brush. Being a butthead. You're being a butthead. Anyway, thank you for watching. I will see you next week. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell because I have a very large project that I'm working on that has worked. I've been working on it for a very long time. Part of it I have actually been working on for about 1.5 years. Behind the scenes in secret. Anyway, I better go before I get murdered on camera by this cat. Alright, see you next week.